One, two. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. We are still, you know what? Maybe I should just be fully transparent with you guys. I'm trying to be discreet with how I describe the situation, but the situation is this. I've had an entire set of my personal professional gear no longer with me. Let's just put it like that. I have an entire set of my personal professional gear that I used before I moved into David Pakman's studio. It's no longer with me. And that is one of the number one reasons why I haven't cut to video yet. So I'm in a quagmire. It's like, can I recover the equipment, or do I just buy new equipment? And that's really fully had the expectation that all of my gear would be in my possession by September 1st. And here we are, September 12th, 13th, and I don't have it in my possession. So so that's where we are. And so I am relegated to doing audio only for a while until I get that gear recovered, or maybe I'll start a GoFundMe just to replace the equipment. I don't know, but I do know that my patrons, you guys have already support me on a regular basis, and I don't really want to ask. I'm not really the type of guy to ask for a whole lot more than what you guys are already doing. So that being said, that's where we are. That's why we are. And I just, full transparency, like I've been avoiding trying to tell you guys because I don't want to, anyway, it's complicated. That's all I can say. So here we are. And there is some stuff that happened today that, holy cow. Let's just say it's been the type of day where it was 100% okay for my, one of the owners of, for one of my bosses to be over my shoulder, help me Google the name of a porn star, and to examine the type of porn that she does on a regular basis. That's the type of day it was. It was a team effort where the women in the office were reaching out to a porn star to do an interview with her, because we felt that that might be more appropriate than, me doing the interview with the porn star. That's the type of day it's been. And if you've been living under a rock or you just haven't cut on the news today, it's because Ted Cruz got caught, and it's, when I use the phrase got caught, it makes it seem like it's something so terrible. It's really not that terrible, but he got caught, quote unquote, caught, liking a tweet video from a porn company. Basically, he was watching porn on Twitter, and inadvertently his hand slipped. I don't know why his hands were slippery, and he clicked the like button. At about 11 o'clock at night last night. And so when we woke up this morning, all of a sudden Ted Cruz is trending, and you click on it to find out why he was trending, and he's trending because Ted Cruz likes porn, particularly a particular style of porn. And the woman in the actress, I call them actresses, because surely they're acting in a lot of those scenes, but I digress. The woman happens to favor his wife, which I don't know. Some people think that's creepy. Other people think that's romantic and whatever. It's not a big deal. The dude likes porn. There's a lot of people who like porn. Everybody likes porn. Everybody. I mean, there may be a handful of people in the universe, in the whole damn universe, who don't like porn. I get it, right? But there's a reason that the porn industry is bigger than Hollywood altogether. They make more money. The porn industry makes more money than Hollywood, all the movie industry, all the movie studios. And that's because America and society and humans like to consume porn. So it's not a big deal, right? In so much that everybody watches porn. I mean, his particular taste in porn. I had to watch it today. Yes, it was very difficult for me. I had to. It was one of the worst days at work. I had to sit there and watch porn. Right? Was there a laugh track in here? Yeah, I had to sit there and watch porn. So it was a miserable day for me at work. But it's not the worst taste in porn. You know, that's not really something I would watch. I have my own particular taste. You have your own particular taste. Everybody watches porn. And so it's like, why are we still in this taboo phase where it's like, ooh, you got caught watching porn? Well, we're in that stage, in that phase, particularly with Ted Cruz, because he's the biggest prude. He's the biggest, he's the one who likes to present himself as pious, as the religious candidate, as the evangelical. He's the guy with the past in Texas where he tried to make sex toys illegal. He's the guy who wants to vote against marriage equality. He's the guy who's obsessed with what goes on in your bedroom. So, of course, we're going to point out the hypocrisy, but simultaneously, I want to see if we can move the conversation forward in America where we're not so skittish over the fact that people watch porn and the fact that people like to have sex, and then those who don't like to have sex, maybe they just like to masturbate or whatever. And even saying the word masturbate for some people is like, oh, this video should be rated explicit. Kids are watching or kids are listening. I get it, you know, but you know what, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 consenting adults decide to do in the privacy of their bedroom with whatever gender or whatever identity they want to do it with, whatever orientation they have, that's their business. And it's none of ours. Our business should be focused. Let's use Ted Cruz because I think you understand it. But of course, Ted Cruz doesn't understand this. Ted Cruz's business should be on whether or not his wife is okay with him watching porn with a woman who looks like her. That should be it. To make sure that his wife is okay with it. Because that they're in that type of relationship. But unfortunately, Ted Cruz preoccupies his time when he's not watching porn. He's preoccupied with trying to dictate what women do with their bodies. That's the hypocrisy level, right? So, you know, no big deal. He watched porn and it's not, you know, wasn't the most exciting. It wasn't the worst I've ever seen. It was like, okay, hey, she's doing what she does and, you know, that's what he likes. But, you know, here's the other thing. It's like, dude, just own it. I think they're trying to pony this off or onto a staffer and to blame a staffer. People are saying, oh, he doesn't run his account. Here's the thing, man. You know, everybody with a significant following has assistants who may have access to the account. So it's very possible that it was an assistant. But when you're logged into your boss's account, you're extra careful. Not saying it's not impossible, but here's the other thing. He has to own this. Even if this was somebody else who did this, he needs to own it, because if he doesn't, it's going to look like he's trying to pony this off, or you get a patsy, get somebody, a fall guy, right? And it's going to backfire. So he should own it. Why? Because it's no big deal. It will become a huge deal if he fires somebody over this. Or it would become a huge deal if he tries to deny it and say someone hacked him. It would become a huge deal if he has what's that televangelist name from back in the day, Jimmy Swaggart moment where he said, oh God, I've sinned before God. I've sinned before you. I mean, if he does that, then it becomes a big deal. Otherwise, if he just says it, yeah, I watched it, and you know, and then say, hey, she looks like my wife. I have a beautiful wife, so my wife was out of town, or my wife just didn't want to be bothered with me that night, and you know, I watched porn with somebody who looks like my wife. End of story. Besides the fact that he's kind of like a disgusting, a perverted version of Eddie Monster, you know, besides the fact of just being icky because of the personality that he has and the kind of person that he is. Besides that, it would be over. It would be over tomorrow. Here's the flip side of this conversation. So in the office, we were legit looking up the porn star's name, and we were looking at her footage and stuff. It was, you know, that's the kind of day it was. And then, one of my bosses was like, I don't know what to call them, managers, bosses, whatever, but you know, they're the people who put the company together and want me to help them take it to the next level. So whatever, we'll figure out a name for you guys. I guess bosses is appropriate. Whenever I say boss, though, I think of that segment with your boy Damon Dash. How you gonna be a grown man and call somebody a boss, dude? Yeah, call somebody a boss and call nobody your boss. Well, nigga, excuse me. I'm sorry. I forgot what audience I was talking to. I thought I was around all my black friends. But dude, listen, hey, yeah, some of us got bosses, bruh. Some of us gotta get a paycheck. We ain't balling like that yet, man. Son. But anyway, you guys can bleep that out. So the whole point of that, what was the point? Here's the point. They were talking about interviewing her, and I was like, okay, that's not really going to be my cup of tea because I've got a reputation to uphold. I don't do tabloid work. I like to do serious work. And here I am, really arguing with them like, no, I'm not going to do it. Maybe somebody else could do it. They're like, come on, Ben, you need to do it. It's going to get a lot. I'm like, yeah, I know it's going to get a lot of clicks, but it's just not me. It's not what I do. I do sophisticated work. Meanwhile, CNN's bitch asses had her on while I'm sitting there saying, no, I'm not going to do that type of video. And I didn't have to do it, cause, like I said, I have free will, I'm completely autonomous and I could, basically do any story I want and turn down stories I don't want to do. But me and my bougie ass, while I'm turning down the story, CNN and Jake Tapper had, what's her name? Corey Chase. That's the name of the actress, had her on there doing an interview. And I'm like, God dog it. Not that CNN is any standard, but hell, if it could go on CNN, surely it could go on my internet show and I could probably benefit from some clicks, but Ben Dixon has his own standard that he holds himself to. So I turned it down and, the moment has passed. So but there's some clicks I don't want. Ultimately, even though it was on CNN, there's still some clicks that I don't want. Like the story with Joel Osteen, one of the biggest stories in a long time, video. I mean, you can get millions of views if you did that story with Joel Osteen. My position on Joel Osteen was different. I wasn't just going to slam him. And so I just didn't want those clicks. Like I knew I could probably get 3-4 million clicks on that, and I just didn't want it. Likewise, I don't want the clicks for this particular story, but I just thought it was ironic as hell. I'm sitting around like, I don't think I should do that type of story. Of course, I didn't talk like that, but dramatizing it, acting it out for dramatic effect, exaggerating for dramatic effect. So there I am with my bougie black ass saying, bad and bougie, black and bougie, saying, yeah, I don't think I should be doing this type of work. This is not in my, my brand. I'm trying to protect my brand and my reputation. And meanwhile, CNN's getting all the goddamn clicks with their salacious tabloid asses. But I digress. So anyway, that's the first story I want to talk about tonight. Ted Cruz, no big deal, man. Everybody watches porn, and I will not ask you what type of porn you like, even though I like to ask survey questions. But here's the survey question I will ask you. How do you think he'll handle it? I don't see where he's handled it yet, so I'm curious how he will handle it. Do you think, he's going to blame a staffer and fire somebody, or just blame them and reprimand them? Do you think he's going to say he was hacked? Do you think he's going to have his Jimmy Swagger moment where he says, I've sinned against God? Or do you think he'll do the sensible thing and say, yeah, hey, I watched the porn and it was actually good, and I went to bed, relaxed that night? I wish we could be there, man. I wish we could be there as a society that where we were like, yeah, man, I just had sex and that was that. Why are we even talking about it? More importantly, it's like, why are we even talking about it? Why is it even a thing? It shouldn't be a thing. And that's where we should get into society, where people's sexual orientation is not something that they have to fear, because it's not even something that people even care to talk about, because it's nobody's business but their own, right? But it's also, they have the freedom to be who they are in public, just like heterosexual couples, right? Where people's, their predilections, so long as they are with consenting adults, it doesn't matter, right? If you have a fetish, just do you. Here's the thing I've learned about sexuality in my time. is that the people who try to repress their sexuality are most likely the people with the problems. And this is why I laugh at the Catholic Church and the idea of a priest who's going to be celibate. Because, like, why? Why, Sway? Why? Why would you do that to yourself? I mean, human organisms, not human organisms, but organisms, living organisms, humans. Let's just skip to humans. We like sex. We like orgasms. That's what we are in. That's like what drives everyone except the select few who may be asexual, right? So why would you put human beings in a situation where they're supposed to be celibate their entire life and deny themselves the most human desire? Oh, because rejecting rejecting desires is a path towards enlightenment. Says who? Because there's some amazingly enlightening moments that happen after sex. So I don't know what the hell these motherfuckers are talking about. I'm sorry, I'm just being real. Like, as long as with consenting adults. And what ends up happening, though, is that you have these sexually repressed men who lash out in dangerous and illegal and harmful sexual behaviors. And they end up raping children, molesting and raping children and raping women. And, they lash out in all these behaviors that are terrible. And, not saying that this is an explanation for all of it. No, some people are sociopaths. Some people are whatever may lead to it. Some people are just abusive in their nature. I'm not excusing I'm not saying this is a blanket statement. So please don't misunderstand that. What I'm saying is that in a lot of cases, particularly with religious people, when they try to repress their sexuality, it ends up manifesting in a way that is very damaging to themselves or to other people. And that could be avoided if they just had a healthy relationship with sex. Because, what's the big deal? Why is it a big deal? Because everybody, for the most part, wants it. All right. And I bet some of you listening to the show right now if maybe they hung up already. Maybe you changed the dial. Some of the people listening are, will squeamish, and they're like, "Why has Ben talking about this?" I get it. I get it. It's like, but one thing I'm trying to do with like my children is to just be candid with them, and just teach them how to have. To me. All right, this is the last thing I'll say about it, because I know a lot of you in the audience are uncomfortable talking about it. But I'll say this. Like, how can I say this without getting in trouble? Somewhere in my 20s, I just learned the value of a healthy sexual relationship. A very open and transparent and healthy sexual relationship. There's nothing better than that. That's part of the reason marriage is good. It's cool because, if it's a trusting marriage, you have an open, healthy sexual relationship. It beats the hell out of wondering where your partner's been, who your partner's been with. It beats the hell out of not knowing your partner at all. It beats the hell out of all that. It's just a healthy, transparent relationship with sex. What's the big deal? Ted Cruz, you watched the porno. Congratulations. You probably should watch more. Maybe then you wouldn't be a jackass. Anyway, a couple of the stories on the docket tonight. So everybody and their mama is coming over to Bernie Sanders and the Medicare-for-all bill. Woohoo! Yep. Mm-hmm. Enough of that. That's long enough. Senator Gillibrand came over today. Cory Booker came over to the Medicare for All bill. We already had Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren. Max Baucus said that he would consider that it's time for us to consider a single payer system. Even the Republican Democrat from West Virginia, Joe Manchin, He's saying, it's time to consider, who the only person who's not come out, or the person who spoke out against it, Tim Kaine, former vice presidential candidate for the vice presidency of the United States. Tim Kaine. He's the only person. Fortunately, I got hiccups now. I'm not going to say anything about Tim Kaine, because if I say something about Tim Kaine, it's going to be misconstrued as something about Hillary Clinton, and I refuse to talk about Hillary Clinton anymore. For reasons that you could discover in the morning analysis from yesterday, I don't think progressives should talk about Hillary Clinton ever again. I don't think her name should come out of our mouths in terms of a critique. For very specific and strategic reasons. And for that reason, I'm not going to say anything else about Tim Kaine, except for the fact that the Democratic Party is moving past him and moving past everyone who was a naysayer and everyone who said that we'll never get Medicare for all, and everyone who attacked it. And they attacked it particularly because it was something that Bernie Sanders supported. But now it seems like the Democratic leaders, or Democratic Party rather, is coming to their senses. Now, we can't make a move on it, but we can sure as hell campaign on it. I think it was Emmett Ranson on Twitter, if I can remember his name correctly. But right after the first fiasco with Donald Trump and his attempt at repealing and replacing Obamacare, he said that the Democratic Party needs to run on single payer, nonstop, nothing else. And the reason behind that, it was a brilliant tweet, because it shows whatever the Republican Party was going to try to do is going to expose it as being weak, right? And so it's a great political move, but then it's also the daggone right thing to do, right? It's just the right thing to do, and it's time for us to stop dilly-dallying around it. And so now the Democrats are coming on board. So now we have the benefit of having a strong political weapon against the Republican Party. But we also have the strong political weapon of just being on the right side of an argument. I mean, there is absolutely no reason. There are too many countries that we can study that have success with a single payer system, or a system that's akin to Medicare for all. And we have the system right here in the United States. We have Medicare, and we see how successful that program is. And so the reality is that it's just the right thing to do. And so the Democratic Party is finally starting to catch up. So there are a lot of questions as to whether or not they're genuine. I think, guys, and I hate to be so callous with some of you. I know some of you on Twitter have run into the wrath of me snapping. I'm sorry, I have mood swings just like everybody else, folks. Some days you can catch me on Twitter and I'm the nicest guy. Some days you catch me on Twitter and be like, Ben needs some help, some psychological help. I can admit to that, right? All jokes aside, I will snap in a minute and I have to apologize. But what makes me snap so hard right now are people who are really stuck in this place that I think is a psychosis, where they're like, we can't trust them. They are saying they want Medicare for all, but they don't really want Medicare for all. They're coming out and endorsing Bernie Sanders' bill, but they don't really want it. It's all one big conspiracy for them to get your support and stop and I get it. I get it, right? I think we honestly, not to belittle the real trauma that is PTSD, but I do believe that everyone on both sides are dealing with a little bit of political PTSD. In the sense that it triggers irrational, it may be, you may think it's very rational, and to people it makes a lot of sense, but to people on the outside looking in, it triggers very irrational behavior. And the reason I say that, and I'm trying to be as delicate as I can with it, because I really don't have anything else to compare it to right now. If you have a better comparison, please let me know. But also because I don't want to be disrespectful to people who actually deal with PTSD, but the behavior pattern seems very familiar to me, and that like it really causes, in the sense that it causes a visceral reaction amongst a lot of you, right? You have the complete inability to engage in this conversation without snapping at people who have come on your side. They're on your side now, right? And it could be just a trust issue. I totally get it. Could be as simple as having a trust issue, but they are here and they're putting their name on the line, which means we can hold them accountable to it. And so it's like, some of us can't take yes for an answer. And so now we have more Democrats than ever who are like Medicare for all. And I'm like, this is the perfect opportunity for us to try to implement this, or at least give the Republican Party hell long enough to get them out of power, which is going to require a few years, and then we can implement it. So, I mean, I don't want to dismiss your concern, but I did a full episode, and it was quite good, if I must say so myself, explaining why Kamala Harris endorsing Bernie Sanders' bill is good, whether or not she means it. Whether she means it or not, it is irrelevant. She has endorsed it, and that gives us political cover to run like hell on Medicare for all. Completely irrelevant if she doesn't actually support it. You know why? Because we're far enough away from actually implementing it that opinions will change, votes may change, but now we have the ability, we have the go ahead to run even harder. And when I say run, I mean as activists and people, people who support, or people who believe that healthcare is a right and not a privilege. Like, we've got the nod to not even have to worry about Obamacare anymore. It's like we don't even have to worry about defending or worry about arguing with people who want to defend Obama's legacy, because now we could say, hey, Kamala Harris, she's on board for it. And she's potentially going to be the first woman president of the United States and happens to be black. Right? So it's a giveaway. Whether she changes her mind or not, we can hold her feet to the fire. But then do you understand? She could change. She could become president and she could try to change her mind. But do you know how popular Medicare for all is? And here's the other thing. Like, I think some of us reduce the Democratic Party because of the PTSD, the political version of it. I think we have reduced the Democratic Party down to being nefarious villains from a cartoon, like I described on yesterday, just twiddling their beard and their mustache, the caricature of a villain, as though they are here and the only thing they really want to do is hurt you. And they want to hurt you. They want to maximize the hurt by making you trust them. And once you trust them, then they're going to snatch away the carpet from under you, like Lucy removing the football. And all of a sudden they just sit back and laugh. Ha ha ha, we got you again. Fam, that's not how this works. They're paying attention to the polling. The American people want Medicare for all. And so whether or not they think it's a good idea, they're politicians and they want to be ahead of the curve. They want to be ahead of the population. And so long as we convince the people and the polling on Medicare for all stays as high or gets higher, even if Kamala Harris is a nefarious villain, she would become the most unpopular president worse than Donald Trump. She doesn't want that, right? No politician wants that. Hell, Donald Trump might actually be the president to sign that into law, rather. You know why? Because one, Donald Trump wants to outdo President Obama. Two, Donald Trump doesn't have any real ideological center, no ideology, rather. And three, he just wants a win. He wants a win. And he wants to be popular. Oh my God, it would work out fabulously for Donald Trump if he embraces Medicare for all. Oh my God, that would be so spectacular in terms of political science, because what would they do? What would Democrats do if now they can't oppose Donald Trump, but they have to get on the same side as Donald Trump because now he's willing to sign Medicare for all into law? Oh my goodness. And he gets the chance to destroy Barack Obama's legacy. Like, I mean, what would be more poetic than that? I don't know. I could think of a couple things more poetic, but I think that's not too far, right? That's a pretty fascinating scenario. So I said all that to say, man, it's a popular idea. That's why Democrats are coming around. And they're also seeing that it's vitally important. It's not only popular, but it's becoming a litmus test for the people. And so because it's a litmus test for the people, they've got to get in front of it. And now they're coming out by the droves, and they're supporting Medicare for all. And it's a beautiful thing because just a few months ago, people were saying it would never happen. So here we are. All right. A couple of other stories that I wanted to talk about tonight. Then I wonder if I want to talk about the Jemele Hill story yet. Jemele Hill of ESPN, the 6 on ESPN, she tweeted out last night that Donald Trump is a bigot. That was a summary of it. And earlier today, ESPN's PR department tweeted out that her statements do not reflect the opinions of the ESPN team and staff, and that they have confronted her and she has admitted that what she did was wrong. So here's the conundrum, people. Here's the conundrum. Of course Donald Trump is a bigot. She was on Twitter when she said it. I think ESPN is trash. I think they're garbage. And I hope that, well, she didn't take the tweet down. She left the tweet up. But here's a reality. And what I'm going to say is not going to be popular, but we help create this environment. Right? We do it all the time. I'm not saying we should stop doing it. I'm just saying this is a side effect of when we as a progressive community or a leftist community or a democratic community or a social justice warrior. And when I say social justice warrior, I don't mean it as pejorative. I'm like, that's the dumbest pejorative ever. Yes, I am a warrior for social justice. Okay. All right, what's the big deal? So I don't say it in a negative connotation at all. But when we, this collective side of the argument, particularly anti-racist, when we seek after and destroy people who are bigots online, and we take their tweets and it's not just about them saying something that's unpopular, it's about them saying something that's bigoted. But here's the play. Once we do it against somebody who says something bigoted, they have the ability to respond in kind, but in a more nefarious nature. They don't attack you for saying something bigoted. They attack you for saying something. Yeah, I mean, basically, because there's nothing bigoted about what Jemele Hill said. She called President Trump a bigot, and that's almost a matter of fact, right? That's almost at the point where it's a matter of fact and not a matter of opinion, right? In so much as that's even possible in this scenario, but we created the environment. So it's like we want corporations to be woke, but the reality of it is that they want to be apolitical. They want to stay out of the fray, and the best way that they can stay out of the fray is to chastise all of their employees, whether they're bigots or whether they are fighting for social justice. And there's no equivalence there. I'm not drawing an equivalence. There's clearly a distinction between somebody calling out white supremacy and somebody who's a white supremacist. But when you have a corporation who wants to be apolitical because they don't want to get involved in the conversation, they don't want they don't want to lose the ratings that they're going to lose from the white supremacists, well, then they're able to grossly oversimplify or draw a false equivalence. And so when I say that we help contribute to this environment, it's the blowback, right? We contributed in so much as we're doing the right thing, but the blowback from what we do is what ESPN did to Jemele Hill. They haven't fired her, but they reprimanded her publicly, and they're pieces of shit for it. But I mean, this is collateral damage. This is going to happen. And it has a chilling effect. And I think the effect that they want is the same effect that we want, right? We want racist and white supremacists to know that if you're publicly racist and white supremacist, we're coming for you. There's no place for you in the public square. However, the blowback, particularly with a company like ESPN who thinks that it's the right thing to do to be apolitical, the blowback is going to be anyone who speaks out against white supremacy, particularly that of the president of the United States, will be reprimanded in a similar fashion. It's not fair. It's not equivalent. It is a shame, but it is a reality of the blowback. And I'm not making a recommendation one way or the other on this. I just want us to be aware, right? I think, well, actually, no, I am going to make a recommendation, but first and foremost, I want us to be aware that this is a natural outgrowth of apolitical corporations. Some corporations are going to make statements and say, this is what we believe. But you have crap organizations like ESPN because they make so much money off of the bigot community. Let's just cut to the chase, right? They make so much money off of that community. So, of course, they don't want to, or they can't mess up their money. Here's my recommendation. We got to take it on the chin sometimes. Still call out white supremacy. Still call it out. Call it out online. And I can say this, I'm saying this from a point of privilege because I work for a political company and our politics are progressive and some liberal, but mainly progressive. I love you guys over there. I say this from a point of privilege because I'm not going to lose my job. Some of you may. And so you do what you have to do, what's best for you. But for those of us who can, then we should still call it out online and just suffer the consequences, if any. And you have to make that decision for yourself. But just be aware that your company may try to be apolitical, just like, I mean, a lot of you, most of you who follow me have fake avatars and fake names anyway. So I guess you've already figured this out. I'm the only idiot out here with my real picture and my real name. So I ain't got no choice. You guys, I've got no choice but to make this whole commentary thing work out. And it's doing pretty, I think we're going to be fine. But I've got no choice because, I'm completely branded forever in this category, in this field, because I didn't use a fake name. I started to, but I couldn't think of one. I'm not really creative with like names and shit and stuff. Excuse me, kids. The first name I was going to use, I was talking with my homegirl. She's like the mother of the Progressive Army is what we call her, Pam. She was working with me when the Progressive Army wasn't even in existence. And it was just me and Pam over writing for the BenjaminDixonShow.com. And I was bouncing names off of her back in like 2000. I don't know, Pam, was it 2014? Before I started Show 15. Yeah, maybe 2013, 2014. But I was bouncing ideas off of her for names. And the only one I could think of was Paul Damascus. Yeah, Paul Damascus. It was going to be the Paul Damascus Show. And then I realized I'm just going to go with my real name. So that's why I'm out here with my real picture and a real name. But the rest of you, I'm sure you're out here with these avatars and fake names because you do realize your company. Hell, I was doing a balancing act, man. I had my real name on record for all the years that I worked for this company, this digital marketing company in Boston. And what I did, though, I had my real name attached to my show, and I made sure to never put my name on the internet based on my work, on my digital work. Thankfully, I was in a position that I did not have to put my name out there often, and whenever I did, I would just use my first name and never use my picture. And I avoided it for a good long while until I went on CNN. And yeah, you would know it. All these liberals in Boston watch CNN. So, I mean, they were cool with it. All of our politics were very similar, but still, I get how difficult it is to be political and be professional. So when I say that we should still go ahead and say what we want to say, I say it knowing full and damn well that I have privilege in that area, where my boss is not going to fire me for having a political opinion. He might give me a raise. But anyway, it's a shame what's happening to Jemele Hill. But I think it is a natural, it's to be expected. It's the blowback that's going to be expected. Not suggesting there's any equivalence, but this is just kind of how that thing works. All right, let me go through my notes here. I'm lying. I ain't got no notes. I'm joking. I don't have any notes. Most of this is just I read the stories and I engage in the conversation. So by the time I get here, it's like, I've talked about it quite a few times or not. All right. So the other thing that I want to talk about, I can't talk about this story, guys. The story of the 8-year-old who was almost lynched by 14-year-olds, white boys who I was supposed to cover that at work today, and I couldn't even cover that, man, because I just don't know. I mean, some things that are happening around us, I don't know. It's just hard to because I'm a dad. I mean, don't get me wrong. A decent human being should be able to look at that story and be outraged. I look at it and I'm outraged just from being a human. But then when I think about my kids, you know, and not to sound tough or anything else, but I think this is just a natural reaction for most parents. It's like, I would just go ahead and take me to jail. Go ahead, take me to jail. Skip the trial, skip everything, take me to jail, because I'm coming after every single one of them. I'm coming after them and their mamas. I'm coming after them and their daddies. I'm taking them all out. Like, you know, that's the kind of visceral reaction that kind of story triggers for me. And I'm sure a lot of you, but thankfully the boy survived. They did not successfully lynch him, but just think about that. In 2017, a group of 14-year-old white boys decided they wanted to lynch an 8-year-old boy, black boy. And he was looking for kids to play with because he didn't have any friends. And their response to him was to try to kill him. Whew. I can't even freaking talk about that story right now. Yeah. So anyway, the last story I'm going to talk about here is actually something positive, something really good. I don't know if you guys have seen the video of the UC Berkeley police officers who were harassing not only harassed, but a vendor. They took the money, they confiscated the funds of a vendor he was selling hot dogs and he did not have a permit. And because they didn't have a permit, these two piece of crap police officers decided to confiscate his money, but not just his money that he made that day. They took his wallet and took all of his money. And the video is so heartbreaking because the guy is so distraught. And you can see he wants to cry because he's being humiliated. But not only is he being humiliated, he's being robbed. And this is money. You could tell he could see the dollars going out of his pocket that he has to use to pay rent, man. And these piece of crap police officers, I'm sorry, I know some of you guys are probably good. I have some police officers who listen to my show. Shout out to each and every one of you. But come on, man, y'all got to say something to, God damn, I can't say the words that I want to say. Y'all got to say something to officers like this, right? And if you are, you know, shout out to you for that. But God dog, man, this dude was, you know, fine him, write him a ticket then. Write him a ticket. If he's wrong, write him a ticket. But don't take the man's money out of his pocket. He's got to feed his kids, man. I saw the look in that brother's eyes. The look in his eyes is that I got to feed my kids tonight. And I don't know how I'm going to feed my kids because the police officers are taking my money. I know that look of desperation because you don't know how. God dog, these police officers, man. That video, whew, damn, that video made me so mad. But I told you that there's a happy ending. If you've been following along, you already know the ending of the story. But God, dog, that thing pissed me off right now, man. Shoot. But let me get to the happy part of the story. Let me get to the happy part. Somebody started a GoFundMe. You know what time it is. I shared I was looking for that GoFundMe, man. And we shared it. And your boy, they asked for $10,000. I'm sure maybe the police officer got $100 from him. I don't know. Maybe he was balling that day, got $500 out of him. I don't know. But the GoFundMe was looking for $10,000. And as I last checked, I believe that they are either at or have surpassed $50,000. Woo! That's right. Eat that. Suck on that, Mr. Police Officer. Take that and shove that up your scrawny blue ass, Mr. Police Officer. What you meant for evil. Oh, good Lord. I done said the wrong thing. What you meant for evil turned around for this brother's good. And now he's got money. He's going to take care of it. He's going to get that permit that he didn't have before. He's going to get him an attorney. And I hope he sues the hell out of UC Berkeley. At least the police say, the campus police. That's, man, that's the thing that pisses me off the most, folks, is when you just are, when you're, I don't want to say mean because that's too simple of a word. I don't want to say evil because I don't want to I don't need the moralistic language. But That's what. Be kind. Is it too much for human beings? I already know the answer, but is it too much for human beings to just be kind? To look at the hurt on the face of somebody else and realize that they are suffering because of something that I'm doing, and I can stop this person's suffering by changing my behavior. That actually answers quite a bit of the problems that we have in society. And I know it's simplistic, but it's so true. Why can't we just not get along? F getting along. Sometimes we got to fight, but can we be kind? Can we look at an opportunity to not be an evil, mean, disgusting person and just be and show compassion? We are a compassionless society sometimes, man. And when I watched that video, I saw a compassionless police officer who was more concerned with punishing this guy than he was with even the letter of the law. And so that's why I'm so happy that the ending happened this way. And I hope that police officer clicks. I hope he's checking that. Refresh the GoFundMe page, motherfucker, and refresh it and see it go up to $60,000. And you sit there and you eat that because you took $500 from him, or maybe you took $100. I don't know how much you took, but you didn't take $50,000 from him. And that's what he got because you were being evil. You were being just a curmudgeon. You were being, I don't even know the word because I don't want to just say evil, right? Somebody give me the words. I'm at a loss of words right now. Shout it at the radio, even though I can't hear you, but I appreciate it. He was trying to hurt this man. He was getting pleasure out of hurting this man. He was getting pleasure out of seeing the pain in this man's eyes, where you and I, our hearts were broken because we saw everything in that man's eye. We saw the language. We saw the fact that he wasn't going to be able to pay his rent, that he wasn't going to be able to feed his kids. We saw that and our hearts were broken. That police officer saw it and he was happy. And so now I hope he keeps refreshing that GoFundMe page, so he can see the joy that this young man has and the fact that now he's going to get a lawyer and come sue your bitch ass. All right, folks. That's all I got for you today. And again, I'm going to figure out my missing equipment situation, and I'll get back to you. But we can still have this conversation, and we're going to keep having it every night until I get this equipment replaced. If you want to help me replace the equipment, the best way probably is to just, because I don't want to start a GoFundMe for this, because just become a patron. Go become a patron, and at the top of the month, it always comes through, and I'll be able to just go and replace some of the equipment, or if not all the equipment that is no longer with me. That's just the language I'm going to use, and I'm not going to give any more specific details other than it's no longer with me. And that's it. So anyway, you guys have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow.